Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Farmer Nash, and today we are with the founder of Derp Birds, as well as a community member named Malau. Guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves here. Tell them a little bit about your name and who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name's Dave. I'm one of the founders of Derp Birds, an NFT project on Cardano. We've been around for around a year. I sort of fill I guess, the community management's position as well as sort of roadmap planning and so on. Yeah, that's me.
My name's Malau. I'm a mod in the Derp Discord. I've been there. I actually wasn't there for Mint, but I was there the day after. So I've been there for almost the full amount of time that they've been around, and it's been a fun time. And thank you for having us here.
Of course, of course. Very excited to see kind of what's going on in your minds right now because things are absolutely exploding. But before we get into that, I want to know, Dave, why did you start Derp Birds? How is it different from any other NFT projects, things like that?
Uh, yeah, so it's funny. I've done obviously quite a few interviews, and no one's really ever asked like why we started Dirt Birds. They've just, the common question that comes up is just like, what's Dirt Birds about? Like, but there was never a question like, why did you want to launch an NFT project? So, yeah, honestly, without getting too much into the backstory, like I had sort of dabbled in NFTs and other chains, and once I discovered Cardano and started dabbling in Cardano NFTs. I just had sort of this itch to build something in Web3. And the current state of the NFT space on Cardano, especially last summer, was pretty underdeveloped. I mean, there were some really great projects coming out of the scene at the time, but the overall experience for minting NFTs and the process around it was pretty underdeveloped. And
Yeah.
there was a project at the time that launched that's pretty notorious now called Coco Locos.
Hmm.
And it was launched by a pretty big YouTube influencer. And it's a rug pull. Like he's pretty defensive about that, but it's basically a confirmed rug pull. And he did without going too much into those details, he did refund everyone, the ADA to mint those
Oh,
NFTs.
then it's not a rug pull, right?
Well,
Uh,
that's where it's difficult, right? Because people spent on secondary market, right? People went in
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're not getting that back. That's for sure.
exactly, and so it technically, I guess you're right. It's not a rug pull, but it's sort of viewed as that way in the Cardano NFT space. So, anyways, I was really into that project. The community of Coco Locals was really cool. It was just super vibrant, really loud, high energy, and so sort of all these things came together. I wanted to build something on Web3. I love the idea of doing an NFT project, and then seeing just that the community that had formed around Coco Locos was sort of the motivation. And I think sort of the last piece of that was I didn't want to just like build a random thing on Web3. We wanted to do something that would further the Cardano NFT ecosystem.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, in the interview. But we ended up putting a lot of emphasis on building a better minting experience. And that was the focus of the project for a long time. Was try to push the bounds forward on Cardano in terms of like the UX and also the tech side of minting. So yeah, that was a large part of the motivation. Just wanted to do something, wanted to help the Cardano ecosystem grow, and wanted to do something that would I'd hoped would be as fun as the community that had formed around Coco Locos. And I think especially for that last point there was we've definitely accomplished that. Like the community of
Oh,
Derp
yeah.
Birds is definitely sort of the pride and joy of the project. So yeah,
Awesome. Awesome.
that's why.
And then Malau, I want to ask you how you found Dirt Birds, just kind of your experience so far.
um, man, it's a crazy story. I had seen Derps on Twitter, scrolling Twitter, and my initial thought, first off, was like, I'm not gonna get that NFT. Like that
That
was my initial thought, was like looking at these birds and like these
was
are
mine
dumb. Like
too. That was
Look at
I'm
mine
like,
too.
I'm not gonna.
stupid art.
So, and it's funny because Dave mentioned Coco Loco. I got into crypto and everything. Long story short, I streamed, gamed, and I built a PC from doing that, from the revenue from doing that. And then I stopped doing it. And so I had this gaming PC sitting here. I'm like, man, what am I I wanted to make money. So I looked into mining crypto, got into that, started looking up YouTube videos and stumbled upon Dan from Coco Loco. And I was like, oh, ADA, let me research that. Let me get into that. Found out they had an NFT scene. And so I started getting on Twitter, trying to find NFTs in Cardano. Like I said, I saw Derp Birds and I was like, I don't know. I guess it was like a week later. And then I saw like their first, like their hype video. And when I saw that, I was like, all right, I'm checking these guys out. Let me go. And
Yeah.
I jumped into Discord, and I'm telling you, I went to other Discords. I was in a couple of ETH projects and another Cardano project. But when I jumped into Derp Discord, immediately, man, I was just like, all right, this is it. Like, this is fun. Like, this is the experience I was looking for. Because what you see now, Nash, it's been like that for a year now. Like, it was like that from the very beginning. And so whenever I jumped in the Discord and had the fun that I had before I even owned an NFT, I was enjoying myself and having fun talking with people, different members. And so yeah, that's how I stumbled upon Dirt Birds, saw their hype video, gave them a chance, and then I was hooked ever since. So
It's crazy because I had the exact same experience. I saw it initially and I was like, yeah, I'm not getting that. And then I joined the Discord and I just absolutely loved the people in there and I instantly bought one. It was like that. It was crazy. So I want to go ahead and ask basically what everyone wants to know who's not in the Cardano ecosystem and why is Dirt Birds on Cardano rather than Ethereum?
Yeah, I think again, without going too much into the backstory, I dabbled on like ETH NFTs. I think a lot of people, start there. I think a lot of people have the same journey in crypto. We're like, oh, we get into Bitcoin, and then we're like, oh, what's this Ethereum thing? And then
Yeah.
we continue trickling down, into smaller coins, or coins of smaller market cap, and so on. So for me, it was there's sort of there are a couple things there. The first one is that I'm a big, this is a pretty popular topic right now in the Cardano NFT, and I guess not just the Cardano NFT scene, but the NFT scene in general right now is, how important is the underlying technology of the blockchain that your NFT project's on.
Yeah.
But for me, I am a big believer in the technology that Cardano is trying to develop, that Cardano hopes to realize. And so, yeah, I stumbled across like Charles's whiteboard video where he talks about sort of the three things that they're trying to solve for with Cardano, and that really appealed to me. I had dabbled in Ethereum NFTs and honestly couldn't afford to do it. The gas fee stuff made it such a high barrier.
It was crazy. Almost like $200, $300 at one point.
Like I got burned so fast doing things on Ethereum. And so after I started when I was like into Cardano for a while before I discovered any of their NFT projects. And it's funny because I was simultaneously a fan of Cardano, but also dabbling in ETH NFTs and just didn't realize that Cardano really had an NFT scene. And then when I finally found it, it was, again, it was right before Coco Locos dropped. There was some other projects at the time like Zombits that I meant a ton of. And it was so much fun, right? I mean, everyone talks about the experience and thrill of minting.
Oh, yeah.
And that on Cardano felt accessible because of the cost fact. It was affordable. And so that dopamine hit, that fun experience of minting and being in Discord and going to show people what you got, that was a ton of fun. And I never got to experience that on Ethereum because one, the process of minting is so different on Ethereum because it has to be the amount of volume, the number of people who are minting, but then also the just nausea, right? Of like trying to mint and then it being super expensive and
you
then
you can lose your gas fees too.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And you just felt right. You'd feel gutted. Like the thing that I really enjoy about Cardano NFTs is like, I didn't care about trying to get rich off of them. Like with Coco Locus stuff, for me, it was just that fun factor of getting to mint the NFTs. And because the cost was so low, right? Even at the time, I think Coco Locos cost 50 ADA to mint. And at the time, ADA was at its all-time high, 250, 260, close to $3, whatever. And that was very cheap in comparison. And none of that was really gas, right? The transaction fees on Cardano are so low. But that was fun. And so that's a big part of the why. But again, another aspect is something I touched on from your first question, which was it's a lot of fun to build on something that's new and early. And crypto and blockchain technology in general is still pretty young, but Cardano, as I said, especially last summer, was so underdeveloped. The NFT scene was so underdeveloped. The mint process was just like, all right, dudes, we're gonna drop a wallet address in Discord or on a website, and then you go rush to your wallet and you're just like sending
Oh
ADA
man.
into that wallet. People are like making mistakes and like sending
Mhm.
all of their NFTs.
Oh,
Copy
that's not
paste.
good.
It's crazy, but it was fun. And so getting to be a part of an ecosystem that's underdeveloped and to get to build something and to have an impact on the future of the entire scene, which we did with our the work that we put into minting, was a big it's one of the reasons that gave Derp Birds a lot of notoriety, was around our efforts on the minting front. And so that was a big reason, right? Getting to actually do something that would be more than just the NFT projects. We would also get to contribute to the overall success of the NFT scene on Cardano.
Nice. Awesome. And, speaking of the minting, I want to talk a little bit about the actual art of the collection. So we all know that you guys are redoing the actual, is it the main collection or you're getting a separate NFT?
So yeah, so the way it'll work is the policy ID for the original collection is locked, so we can't update. We're basically going to be doing a token migration. So it'll be,
Okay.
yeah, you'll
Yeah.
basically perform the swap to get the new token,
So
the new
why are you changing the art? Because we do kind of like the silly style. Do you think it's necessary for the project moving forward and for, let's say, a wider adoption?
It's really funny. Like, I think I tweeted someone, actually our friend JK had tweeted something earlier today, I believe, about like there's not as many people talking about the artwork anymore, but a very common thing, which I think
Mhm.
you guys were just saying you both experienced, like, I'm not getting
Yeah.
into this project,
Yeah,
right? A very
100%.
common thing was maybe it's not just the artwork, maybe it's everything, it's the branding, it's the name or whatever, but like people have a response to the project. And you ask Malal about this, like, we've heard so many people who are like, you see it on Twitter all the time, they're like, oh yeah, Derp Birds,
Yeah.
those guys are cool, but I just don't vibe with the artwork or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I've seen it.
it's subjective, right? Artwork is subjective. That's going to be the case. There is no art style for any one project that everyone's just going to universally say is great and they're going to vibe with it. However, it's been so common said about Derp Birds. So earlier this year, and so this will be a bit of a story, because I think this is a thing that we haven't unveiled all of the details around the why, but there's multiple reasons for this huge initiative, and the updated artwork is only one facet of that. So what's funny is a lot of projects now are doing this, right? They're sort of upgrading their art to a new style.
Yeah.
And DGods did it on Solana. And I had just started allowing myself to believe that we were doing it because DGods did it and it was smart. But I was looking into this started. I was like, no. I had the idea long before. I didn't even know what DGods was when we came up with the idea of 2.0. And I basically fact checked myself on this earlier. All of our roadmap, right? We have documentation for everything. The first version of the what we call 2.0, this upgrade of the token, I published in January. I
Oh,
have the documentation that outlines why we would want to do it. And the reason why we made the decision to do it back then was when we launched the Pred collection, which are the enemy of the Derp Birds, right? Pred is Derp spelled backwards. When we launched Pred, we knew we wanted to launch them on an open policy, which means they can be updated over time. The metadata can be updated over time.
yeah.
It could be dynamic. They could be customizable. And when we had that, we knew we were going to do that. We knew we were going to do that at the end of last year. They were going to be on an open policy. But then we thought, like, well, the main collection, the OG Derp Bird, they're going to be locked, and that kind of sucks to have like one collection locked and the others open. And so we knew at that moment, we started having the idea: what if we just did? We didn't know the term at the time, like a token migration, but we thought, what if we just launch a new collection? People can come swap them out for the new ones for free. And it was at that time we were like, oh, we could also redo the art, because something that we hear frequently, as we've just joked about, was that a lot of people are like, yeah, the artwork's not for me. So
Yeah.
last thing I'll say on that is, well, a couple more things is, the first thing is, we we've been very proactive this year in reaching out to people and asking for feedback, like, hey, yeah, like whether it's influencers or just community pillars or even people in Derp Birds, like if you don't have a Derp Bird, like why did you never get into it? And that was by far the most common thing that we heard as feedback. Like, yeah, I just don't really love the art. So that's that's another reason, right? Is can we improve the artwork? Can we get it to a point where that's less common? It's less common for us to hear that type of thing. And so that's another big part of the goal. But and this is the last thing I'll say. Since the pump that's sort of occurred in the last couple of weeks, we've been joking about this. Like all of the sudden, right? Really randomly here, like no one really says that now. All of the sudden, people love the artwork. And of course, the Derp Birds community have always loved the artwork. Like I love the artwork.
It's just so silly.
It is, and I think that
it grows on you.
It does.
It really does.
It really does. And I think, I've been, a couple more thoughts on the artwork is that, it's really interesting to think about why artwork matters for an NFT project. And, what role does it play? There are projects that have incredible art and just, they never take off. And so you think, does the artwork really matter? And you see projects that have very low effort artwork and maybe they blow up. And I think about it all the time, like how much of a role does it play? And I think a big part of it is just, the higher fidelity it is, like there's more details there. That makes it more, maybe more interesting and fun to collect because, you sort of obsess over some of the smaller details. But yeah, there's a lot to unpack around, the role that artwork plays on a project. But that's why with the 2.0 collection, with what we're calling Rebirth 2.0 Rebirth, that's why we are taking a stab at the new artwork. And shout out to Cosmo, who is grinding right now in this moment, redoing all the artwork. He's he's definitely one of the best on any chain, in my opinion, in terms of his artistic ability. So we got quite lucky being able to get him to. He's one of my good friends. So yeah, it's gonna be really incredible, the artwork.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a change that people might not be used to at first, but I think they might warm up to it really quickly. But there's only one way to find out, right? So we'll definitely see. And this next one I want to toss to Malau. So there's a world where you launched a new artwork, and all those people who are like, there's no way I'm buying that, decide, okay, maybe it's time that I pick up a Derp Bird, right? And with the recent migration of a lot of Ethereum people to Cardano, there's a chance Derp Birds could really blow up. Like I'm talking blue chip status for Cardano. Malau, do you think this is going to change the way the community operates or really change anything about the project?
I think we have a solid core community. The ones that are there that have been there are solid, and we've been, I guess, in a way, preparing for this. We, as much as people think, oh well, the pump just happened, like these guys are just taking off. From a long time ago, we've been saying, hey, we're building and it'll eventually be our day. It'll eventually happen. And then, a couple of weeks ago, it started happening, with Dave's tweet and just how he talked about, the supply shock and just how diamond handed our holders were. So to answer your question, like with this artwork upgrade and getting more eyes and especially now with so many ETH people coming into the space wanting to know about Cardano NFTs, them seeing this new artwork and the trailer is going to be coming out soon. So like, yeah, it's exciting, but I think with our core, I don't think it changes the way we handle ourselves. I think and that's the cool thing about the community. I think a majority of us are very mature, and I don't think it'll get to our heads or change the way we operate. I think you need that before, sometimes projects aren't ready for that type of influx of people because they just, have their little small community, and then a whole bunch of people come in and it can get a little hectic, get a little crazy, and then, things can get out of hand really quick. But when you have and you know, I'm biased, but I really see it when you have a nice, decent core community of members that, you know, for the most part are all adults. We joke around, we have fun, but we understand what is going on, you know, and we understand how to handle ourselves. And so I think derps are ready. I think the members, the community, the project is ready, and we've built that foundation ahead of time so that when this does happen, not if, but when it does happen, we'll be ready to take it on, you know.
Awesome. Yeah, and I agree. The community is extremely, we'll say, foundational, where you have kind of like core things that you guys do that's super fun, and I do agree with that 100%. Now, Dave, you used to play a lot of Super Smash Bros. So I know you're at least you were a gamer. So where do NFTs fit into gaming, and could the Dirtbirds potentially ever be launching a play to earn or any just type of video game in general?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I used to be heavy into gaming, like, and I think that that's kind of a weird thing to say these days because everyone, well, most people, most guys in particular, but
Yeah.
increasingly women as well. Like we either we play now or we have at some point in our life. But yeah, I would say far above average, right? I built my first PC when I was like 8 years old. I started playing EverQuest when I was 9. Like MMOs, I mean, I grew up like on MMOs at a very young age, like pre 56K dial-up connections, right? Like,
Oh man.
and so I was big into PC gaming before it was even a thing, before it really a thing. So, I was pretty big competitive gamer, and then that's been a huge part of my life for the vast majority of my life. So yeah, super passionate about gaming, but and this is, so I watched your video from last week, Nash, and really enjoyed your perspectives on
Oh
it. But
nice.
I think about it a lot as well. And my day job, I'm a UX designer. I'm a product designer, and there is a lot of overlap. There's a lot of parallel between this conversation that's happening right now about like where do NFTs fit into the gaming world. There's a lot of parallels between that and sort of the way that designers deal with um, solving problems for any sort of complicated or complex software solution. So the thing that has been disappointing to me about NFTs and games and play to earn and blockchain gaming in general is that they're, I think as long as the up until now, it seems like the focus on trying to launch blockchain games is that there's a focus on the technology, and the end user, the gamer, right, doesn't care, right? They don't care if it's NFTs.
Oh
They
yeah.
don't care if it's blockchain. Again, you don't have a situation in like where gamers are standing around talking like they're getting super stoked about this game that's launching that's going to be on Unreal Engine 5. Like no one cares about that except for a very small few number of people. They just want something that's fun. And
The only
so
people that care about NFTs in games are the current people that trade NFTs. No one
exactly.
outside of our little bubble
Mm-hmm.
really cares.
Exactly. And so what's really interesting, and by the way, like this could be hours of conversation, but like what's really interesting to me is that um and I'll circle back around to the real question, but what's really interesting to me is that there is this sort of disconnect. We see NFT projects launching that then decide they're going to launch a game, or we see NFT projects launching
Yeah.
and then decide they're going to go the metaverse route. And what's interesting is people who minted that project or who have bought into that project get really excited about the potential of that project launching a game because they look at something like Axie Infinity or other really popular games that blew up as a result of their play to earn model, and they get really excited about the potential of that happening to this game that's launching for a project for which they hold many NFTs. The problem is though, you know, though there are gamers who will collect NFTs, right? I think all three of us probably fit that criteria. There are many NFT collectors who aren't gamers and don't care about that. They're in it for the investments, and they're in it to try to make money and to hustle. And so I think that that's something that's being missed is you it might seem like a great idea to take your existing NFT project and build a game around it to launch a game for it. But it is so risky to me because how would you begin to compete, right? Something that we've said from the beginning, and we, especially when we first launched the project, every single NFT project that was launching around the same time of us had a game on their roadmap. All of them.
Game
Malau can
or
attest to this.
metaverse or something, and it's like,
Yeah.
dude, if there's 40 metaverses, I'm not. Chances are, I'm not gonna go to yours. I'm gonna go to the one that had like 30 million in funding, who built something crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it's the same with games, right? I'm not going to be playing some, to be honest, garbage blockchain game when I could be playing, right, the new God of War on my PS5 or Smash Bros for that matter. Like, I'm going to play something that's actually fun. If I want to play and, or some online game, right? Like, and that's the thing that I think is missed. Like, you have a very tough time commanding people's attention, right? Like getting people to commit to playing your game when there are so many other games out there. And if you're trying to market your game to NFT collectors, good luck, because they're not gamers. Some of them are, but they're not gamers to begin with. And so if you're dependent upon converting your existing community who were there for many different reasons, but if you're dependent upon them adopting and playing your game, especially for a prolonged period of time, I think that's super risky.
Oh yeah,
And it's
people get bored
they get
Yeah.
bored. I say this constantly, that
and
I think one
fast.
of the interviews I recently did is that, like, best case scenario, right? Best case scenario, you launch a game that is really good, right? It's solid. It's competitive with other games in the same genre that are, launching at the same time. Best case scenario, you launch an awesome game, limited bugs, right? It works well. You've got the economy down, the play to earn model, whatever you're doing, all of that works. People are still going to get bored in 3 months, right? Tops. Some people will stay
Probably.
and play longer. And again, dude, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, Nash, because like you know a lot more about Axie Infinity than I do, but like, what was the driving factor that kept people engaged, and what made that game so successful? And I've heard it, and maybe it's a cliche.
Yeah.
Exactly. But what I've heard is that it's not that fun of a game. Again,
Moolah, baby.
It's
exactly.
not that fun. I played it.
Yeah, I think you gotta like card games to enjoy it. And
Yeah.
after about 1 month of people playing, and when the earnings started to dwindle down, a lot of people said, you know what, I don't really like card games personally,
Hmm.
and they left. But some of them really do like it, and they're still playing. So I do agree with you. Like, your game has to be an absolute home run of a game, and you have to do the tokenomics perfectly if you do have a token, which is a long shot. Literally, no one has done that right yet. And I do want to toss this over to Malau real quick. As a community member, is there one thing that you really want the Derp Birds to do with the future of the project at this time?
Man, that's a tough one.
You're on the spot.
Yeah.
Like, if you could have anything, right? And then maybe it's not, but if you could have Dave do anything for you for Derp Birds, what exactly would that be?
You know what? I know this might sound crazy. If this was possible, if this was like something that could be funded, something that could happen, it technically kind of is happening, but more like on a like the next level is have a Dirt Bird TV series.
Ooh,
That'd be fun. I think because not only owning your derp, because we, I guess I'm more personally am like kind of put a story behind my PFP buff orange that I have, and so I have fun with it. I like to have fun with the collection, make stories behind it, kind of put a little bit of lore behind it. But you'll notice that people do connect. Like if you go on the Discord, there are people that have had the same PFP Dirtbird for this whole year. You know, they haven't changed it
yeah,
because they identify with that NFT. Just like you, former Nash. I don't know how long you've had your Sappy seal, but you identify with that NFT. That kind of become your
it's like
identity in
my
the space.
identity and brand. I literally can't switch it.
Exactly. So imagine having your brand, your NFT on a show, like
Oh, that'd be
in
cool.
that universe. And so I know you saw today, probably just today, you saw that little clip from Jamie, the animated short with
Yep.
it's kind of like imagine having something like that on a weekly basis come out, and your PFP, your identity is on that show. Like it solidifies that. Just, I guess it's kind of like a dopamine hit. I love it. I love seeing my PFP in those little series. And I guess to answer your question, if we had like a Netflix series of Derp Birds just to chill and watch, because there's so much backstory. It can even include stuff from the Discord, stuff from our history, to go into that kind of
Memes.
thing. Memes, yeah. And imagine like one week we're talking, like with you guys, the ETH people coming in, like there'd be like an episode with like these crazy rich guys coming into Derpatonia, with that, whatever, like just something like that. I think that would be really cool to happen. It's a long shot. It's something like, you don't know, but I think in my mind, if I would think, oh man, if I had a Derp Bird and I wanted to do this, that would be it. Like I'm an
Yeah.
entertainment guy. I love story. I love lore. I think that'd be so much fun to have. So yeah.
I will say, if Derp Birds were to ever become a series, I think you'd have to change the art, because there is no way that anyone outside the NFT space is gonna want to watch that. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
well, let's
Yeah.
so actually we so
Are we
what
gonna
Derp
get a
Birds is
leak right
pretty
now?
heavily in what's that?
Are we getting a leak right now?
No. Oh
Oh,
yeah, sorry. I was just on a call before this with Netflix, and yeah, it's in the
yeah.
Yeah,
works.
yeah.
No, but Derp Birds was really heavily inspired by like Rick and Morty and
Mm.
Solar Opposites. Like Solar Opposites is like, I am so obsessed with that show. So I think that sort of comes through a bit, some of the inspiration and some of the artwork and stuff. But what's funny about, again, on the topic of artwork, is what's been really cool about the NFT scene is that there are people now who maybe stop and pay attention to art when they see it, and they never did before, right?
Yeah.
And that's really cool. But I think that sometimes there is this tendency. I saw today, again, for Dirt Birds, we've heard this over and over and over. But I saw someone, today, just a random exchange on Twitter. But someone was like, "Yeah, show me the artwork at 2.0, and I might consider." Right now, there's no way I'm buying one of those, right? Like, and again, I laugh about it because I'm like, by the way, that's perfectly cool, because there is no art project that's for everyone. There's no
Yeah.
art style that's for everyone. But what I sort of laugh about sometimes is, we watch movies and TV shows and these types of things, and we consume content for different reasons, entertainment, in large part. But we never, like, no one ever watched Rick and Morty and was like, God, the artwork is incredible, or the artwork is really bad. Like,
That's kind of true. Yeah.
no one really comments on it, right? And so, like, I think, again, it's cool to see, and this happens to me too. Like, I go back and watch things. I'm probably the show that I watch more than anything else of is Bob's Burger. Like, and
Yeah.
I'm absolutely in love with like the first couple seasons when the artwork is really rough. It's inconsistent. There are faces that are broken, and like, I love finding those details. And to me, the
It's like the
sort of
finesse. It's
it's
the style and the finesse of the artwork, kind of.
it's lost over time, right? There's that refined.
Mhm.
You can see this in other shows like Family Guy and such, where it's like it's lost over the years, like where it loses its endearment, its character,
Yeah, that's
because
true.
it gets
Actually.
so refined that it becomes boring. Anyway, sorry, that's a whole other topic. But um, yeah, I think if we ever had the opportunity to do an animated series, then I would imagine that it would be an artist who, it would sort of be their own take on what these characters would be like and stuff. But
Awesome.
it would be cool.
All right. So I'm actually going to hit you with a tough question right now. So the Derp Birds ecosystem, I believe there's 6 different NFTs in it. There's the birds, the apes, eggs, derplings, preds, and keys. What's the last
Shards?
one? Shards.
Shards.
Okay, we got all 6 there.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of NFTs to keep track of, and it may be tough for a new person coming into the ecosystem to be like, what is all this stuff? So does having so many collections kind of dilute the original Dirt Birds? And do you plan to launch any more collections in the future?
So the first question, to answer directly, of course it does, right? Like, of course, having more NFTs dilutes the original. I mean, it just, people have more options, right? They can come into the product and say, like, oh, instead of buying a Derp, maybe I'll buy a Derp Ape. So of course, yeah. And then I'll add a lot more context on this, but I'll also go ahead and answer the second question. As of right now, no, there are plans to use NFT technology to do more things. So one example of this is like being able to customize your Pred NFTs.
Yeah.
So we will be issuing NFTs that are different traits that can be used to customize. In terms of like character collections and types of things, there is nothing planned, and I can't even, especially in this market, I can't even imagine trying to do anything else. So without a doubt, it dilutes. What's funny is, even within our community, that's super tight, right? The community is really close. There is, sort of maxis, right? We have OG Derp maxis, we have Pred maxis, we have Derp Ape maxis, and it's fun and funny, and I think it adds a lot to the community, the culture of the project, that we have that. But on the flip side, like I think again, the super obvious drawbacks to doing that is, as you said, it's a bit overwhelming. People are like, a lot of people didn't even know Derp Apes were a part of the Derp project.
Exactly.
So it could be a bit overwhelming. But then again, for people who are really into NFTs to make money, and that's a lot of people, of course, you look at this and you're like, well, that's an obvious flaw in this project. There's so many NFTs. It means that the supply is super bloated. But on the flip side of that, two things that I think are worth mentioning is one, the overall number of listings across all of those collections is insanely low. I think right now there's something like 31.5, 32,000 or something NFTs that could be held by a holder. And I say that number because some of those are locked away. Like eggs and things like that. Some of the derplings are locked away in wallets that can't be accessed. And usually for all of those, and Malau, correct me if I'm wrong here, but like for all of those, we usually average what, 2%, 3%?
Yeah, it's like hovering between 2 and 3% right now
for 30,000+ NFTs. That's including, again, the eggs, shards, like not the non-character NFTs.
Yeah.
So that's and by the way, that's like my favorite statistic. Like it's incredible that that's the case, that people are, we have a staking system. It's non-custodial. You do not lock your assets up. So people aren't holding these because they're stuck holding them. That low listing number is low because people just love them. So that's one thing that I think is important to keep in mind. The other is something that yesterday was a great example of this. A lot of people are coming over from Ethereum. Yesterday was wild. Discord broke, was lagging out constantly. Our server was literally getting bombarded. And by the way, that's happened multiple times in the last 12 months, where Discord was so insane that it literally, we felt like we broke Discord. But yesterday was a good example of that. And what we saw and what we've seen play out today as well is there are a lot of people who, for whatever reason, they love one collection and not another. And the thing that,
it's like me. I prefer the OG Derp Birds because I feel like that's what the collection is. I'm not as interested in the apes, maybe the Preds because I think they look really cool, but I definitely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and the way that we've spun it is the OG Derp Birds and the Preds are sort of the main characters, and Derp Apes and Derplings are sort of secondary. They're sort of the sub characters, and you see that played out in the staking rewards. But what's really interesting is there are a lot of people who love the ape meta, right? They like collecting ape NFTs. We were able to grow our community pretty substantially when we launched Derp Apes, and I won't go into all the reasons why Derp Apes even exist to begin with. That's a whole other long story. But by doing that, when we did that, we had a lot of new people who are now core members of our community who came in through the Derp Apes projects. Nice. And I couldn't imagine the projects without them now. And then the last thing I'll say is that, let's say that we only had two collections, right? Let's say we had the Derp Birds and the Preds, for example, the main characters. It's not a guarantee, but you imagine with fewer assets, right? If the same amount of liquidity flew into the flew into the project, that the floor price for all of them would be much higher. It would be less accessible to other collectors. And so what we see happening, again, Malau can attest this all the time, is people jumping in, and we saw it happen a lot yesterday, and they're like, oh, I can't afford an OG Derp Bird. I'm going to go buy an ape. I'm going to buy a Derp ape.
Yeah.
And so they still get to be a part of the ecosystem. They still get to participate. By the way, you don't need a Derp NFT to hang out. Like,
Yeah.
just and I think that we have some people who I know have no Derp NFTs. Who we have one person whose name I won't name, but who's been in the community from the start, who had a ton of Derp NFTs, got pissed at us, dumped them all, came back to the project, became a whale again, got pissed again. I think got rid of most of his NFTs, and now he's a whale in the project once again. And like,
Nice.
there was some tension, right, between this person and the team at some point, but like, that person never stopped being a part of the community. Even when he was upset at us and like dumped all of his NFTs, he never stopped being a part of the community. So again, sorry, that sort of a tangent, but there are some benefits in that it makes the project more accessible, and maybe attract to a broader audience if we have these different characters. And again, there's maxis for all of them. People who love collecting derplings. We've had some new people in the last couple months jump in who have bought tons of derplings. There are people who love the OGs, people who, there's one person in particular who I think only has Pred and has a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a super fun dynamic. It's a really fun dynamic.
And I'll add to that, just to kind of add to your gaming side of things, Nash. Like, just outside looking in, yes, there's a lot of collections. You come in, you like the OGs, that's great. The more time people spend in the project, and the whole reason the collections exist is you've heard Dave say it before, it's a gamified experience.
Yeah.
So to kind of touch on that gaming experience, imagine like you picking up a game for the first time, like Skyrim or whatever, and you play Skyrim and you don't ever go check all the extra rooms and all these dungeons and all these things, but you can still have an experience just playing the base part of the game. What I'll add is those extra collections, and if you really dig into the project, it's not required, but the more you dig in, you realize, okay, well, this is why this exists, and this is why this trait is here, and if I have this, then this means this. Like, it's just, the more you dig into it, the more in depth you look into it, the more you realize, oh, that makes sense. That's why there's derplings. That's why there's pred, and that's why there's this trait. So like, on surface level, you
I'm
can
gonna
have
need
an
to own all
OG.
these soon, aren't I?
On surface level, you can have the OG, but then you realize, oh man, like, these derplings are result of the DNA of the OGs. Like, they're not just random traits. Like, they were specifically created from the OGs. And then you have Preds, who are the opposite of these derps, and they're fighting these derps later on. And like, so there's just it's like an onion, you just keep peeling, and there's just layers.
Two quick examples that sort of I think stand out, that make it that sort of speak to the gamified nature of the project is, as Malal said, like the DNA. If you have a derpling, you can of course go into metadata and see who the dad is. You can go to the explore page on the website and see all of that as well, presented in a much cooler format. But though it's not working, because we have this really robust achievement system, right? We have like 60 or 70 plus achievements. A lot of those use, of course, on-chain data and so on, and it's all historical. That means, well, I won't go into all those details, but the idea of like having, if you're actively holding a derpling and its dad, or vice versa, the dad and the derpling, then there's a recurring achievement that every epoch, every 5 days, you get a reward for that, of XP. And so like that's one example of like a part of that sort of makes it fun, and it becomes this mini game to be like, oh, I bought this OG. Let me go find out what the derpling is, if I can track them down and trade for them or buy them on secondary. And I think that's fun. And I don't want to bloat that out. It's not like everyone in the project's obsessing over that, but there are people who have had fun doing that. The other example is when we did the Pred invasion, right? The enemies of the Derp Birds. A part of this was sort of market meta, where we wanted to take, we had to release this collection. They were free, by the way. We didn't charge for the Pred. But we needed to get this last character out. We couldn't have the story without the enemy of the Derp Birds. Yeah. And so we had to get the Pred out, but we were very cognizant, of course, of diluting, right, and increasing the supply of NFTs. And so in order to get a Pred, you have to give up a derpling or a Derp Bird. And the story there is that basically you're sending that derpling or that Derp Bird to the Pred mothership, to the prison, and that's the only way you can get the Pred.
Oh, okay, I see. So you actually have to burn one to
Mm.
mint a pred, right?
We took it one step further than that. So rather than burning them, we're holding them. We didn't burn them, and the reason why is we've left the door open. We have not committed to this, but we left the door open from the beginning to be able to go perform rescue missions later. And so if you're holding a pred, and by the way, you can go on the website, dude. The most fun thing. I guess you haven't done a pred invasion, have you? Have you done one yourself?
I don't want to burn my derp.
Okay,
You know?
I'll hook you up, and then and as long as you'll like do a pred, because we have this really cool. So I can't go into all the details of, but this battle preparedness system. Preds come in 4 different ranks. With each increasing rank, you get an additional attribute, like a back attribute.
Oh,
Or
nice.
a
The
weapon
art
attribute.
is sweet too, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. And so we came up with this really complicated, fun, gamified system that would allow you to get a higher battle preparedness score so you could secure a higher ranked pred. You always had a chance of getting a high ranked pred. There was a very small chance, but you could secure it if you used enough assets. So for example, you could use as many eggs as you want to get a pred. With each additional egg that you would use to create your pred,
okay.
your battle preparedness score would go up. So we left the door open. The point I was making is that we've left the door open to say that later you may be able to go and perform a rescue mission. So here's the really cool thing that people figured out. People they gave up an OG Derp Bird to get a pred, and then they just sold the pred. They put it on secondary market, and people would go and look at that pred, go to the website and see which OG Derp Bird was given up for,
Yeah.
or which Derpling was given up for that pred, and then they buy that pred because they know if we do rescue missions one day, they'll get access to go get that OG Derp Bird. The craziest story, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Malal.
Perfect one.
Someone bought right after our mint back last September, back when ADA was at like 240. They basically spent
12,000.
like $25,000, right? Close to $30,000 because ADA was
Yeah.
at like 250. $30,000 for a really rare OG Derp Bird, and they then used it to convert to pred.
Oh,
I told people,
why?
No, this isn't it. This is keep going.
So it gets worse. They get this pred, and it was a rank 4, right, Malal? It's a rank 4 pred.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
Cool.
because they used a lot of assets.
Yeah.
They maxed out the battle preparedness score.
Okay.
Again, you can go to the website, all of the assets that someone gave up to create that pred. So they got this pred, and then they sold it. They bought the Derp Bird for $30,000. They get. By the way, if this person's watching, I feel like I have failed because I did. It was clear that some of these things weren't communicated, that this is how things were going to go down. And so I feel I take some responsibility for this.
It's clearly your fault, Dave. It's clearly
100% my fault.
100%.
But they sold that pred, and someone bought it, and so that person is like, oh my god, rescue missions, let's go, because they're going to get one of the most rare Derp Birds in the collection. At some point, was someone paid $30,000.
They might get it, right?
They might.
Yeah.
And the factor that we're taking into consideration, and I'll end this point here, is that we wanted to take supply off the market with doing pred. And the big reason why is for the question that you asked earlier. We have too many. We have a lot of NFTs, a lot of collections. The NFT space has not seen a lot of growth this year in 2022. Right? It's been a bit flat. Solana had a great market this year, and Cardano in particular, like we haven't seen a ton of growth. And so what we communicated and sort of what we planned with the community was these rescue missions will not happen as long as there is not substantial growth in the Cardano NFT ecosystem.
Yeah, that's really smart.
Yeah, if it happens and one day there's a lot of demand, then we will come up with a really fun gamified way to allow people the opportunity, the chance to get to go back and save those Derp Birds and Derplings. So yeah, I think those are 2 really good examples of like that gamified collecting experience where we wanted to make the whole process really fun.
Yeah, of course. And I do actually like, this is the first NFT I've owned that's kind of like the gamified thing. Like, do I burn my derp? What do I do? If I buy this, I can like farm this much derp. So it is actually kind of fun, and it's more fun than I expected. And I'm excited to be able to use my derp for more things in the future. For those of you watching that don't know what derp is, it's just it's their token. And so one of the things I've noticed about you, Dave, is that you seem like a very cautious person. Especially with what you say, you don't want to leak too much. You're very tactical on like what you do in the future of the project, right?
Yeah.
So, is there one deliverable or something that's coming up that you're saying we're for sure doing this?
Yeah, I think I am a very cautious person. In fact, my friends who I've known for many years, like that is sort of a meme, is that Dave is cautious and calculated. Like that's a thing that I've been known for being for a long time. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it's done us a lot of good in the NFT space. It's hurt us in some ways because we go a little slower because we want to be very cautious and careful and calculated about everything that we do. But to answer your question, so of course we're doing 2.0, right? We've talked about that. This is the upgrade. We're 100% doing 2.0. It wasn't easy. It was something that we asked a lot. We took our time with and really evaluated if we want to do it. But yes, we're 100% doing 2.0. We are working on a marketplace that will definitely be going out this year.
So there you go.
There,
More use for the derp.
exactly.
Yeah.
More use of Derp.
Wow.
It allows us to bring more things into our ecosystem. There's one topic we haven't really talked about in relation to this, into the marketplace, and something that I haven't talked about at all in a recording of any
Oh, we're getting
kind.
a leak right now?
Here we go.
Let's go.
It's not exactly a leak. It's not something that's going to be, I mean,
No, it's a
I
leak.
think our community will really support. I'll be curious to see how people respond to it.
It's a leak.
I'm gonna be watching Malal's face while I'm talking and see how he reacts. But obviously we're in the middle of a bear market. Like it's pretty fierce, and there's been a lot of excitement right around Derp Birds in the last few days. A lot of people jumping in. We hit some all-time highs, and we look at that, and making money is not the core objective we have as a team. Like we've been here building this for a year now. We haven't made money off of any of this stuff in a long time. We do it now because it's fun. And we, of course, we love the idea of thinking that, yeah, next bull market takes off, everything blows up. And of course, it would be awesome to make money off of that at that point. But right now, it's almost foolish for us to try to do anything with the hopes that we'll make money off of it. With that being said, we do need to make sure the project is taken care of, that we're able to fund and keep things online and pay for things that we need to keep the project running. We've done a lot to ensure that we can, luckily the team that we have, like we're able to build pretty much anything that we want to do. So we don't have to pay a lot of contractors and those types of things. But we want to make sure the project is always paying for itself. And as I said, we've done things that allow us to take care of that for the most part. But a big benefit of one, something we haven't talked about at all, but by doing the 2.0 collection, is that we can change the royalties amount. And that's something that some people are going to understand and say, of course, that makes sense. Others are going to probably not be super stoked about that. But what we've noticed on Cardano is that more and more projects are increasing the royalties that they have on the collection.
It's at 3%, right?
It's at 3%.
Yeah.
And
so the industry standard is 5% for anyone that doesn't know. And there's a big controversy going on of should projects even charge royalties. I'm going to take a quick stance on this before I pass it back over to you.
Please.
Is that I absolutely think it's necessary to have royalties on your NFTs because you expect their team to ship something out. Well, they need money to do that, right? They have a family, they have rent, all that stuff. So not only that, if they're shipping out a product for their NFT, they probably have skills that are valuable that they could be earning a lot more and doing something else in Web 2 for. So they're absolutely necessary. Royalties are 100%, should be okay. I think the industry standard of 5% is perfectly fine. And I was actually surprised to see that it was 3%. So just real quick, go ahead.
Well, I love hearing your context on it. You obviously have a lot of experience in the space and a really broad point of view. I imagine having been able to see what a lot of projects are doing. But yeah, here's one additional thought on that is, there are projects, like if you sort of look at the overall volume that occurs on Cardano, and it's tiny compared to that of Solana. I think it's usually on most days it's a fifth, and on Ethereum it's a tiny percent compared to what you see on Ethereum. So when we talk about royalties, right, this is something that if some of your audience are watching, and I think that it's natural to say, well, they're just being greedy, they want more of the money. First of all, your point is perfect. It's spot on that, like, in order for us to continue building the project, there needs to be, that has to come in order to be able to do that. Geek and I, the lead engineer on the project, we both have kept our jobs. He quit his job last, I think December it was last year, and has then recently started a new job. I've kept my job the whole time because I was like, God, crypto is so volatile, and it has been a grind. Like it is a
I
nonstop
can only
grind.
imagine.
I have a Web2 job. Yeah, I'm a product designer. Like it's a nonstop grind. I have to go to London next week for the week, like for work. And so, sorry to get back on the topic of royalties though, is when you really look at Cardano and you look at how low the volume is, look at the top project, like we'll use Clay Nation or Spacebuzz, for example, 25 million ADA in volume, something like that, right? Malal, like I think Clay is around like 25 million for the OG collection. Even at 10%, right? Even at 10, and they're not at 10% royalties, but I'm saying even if they were at 10% royalties, at the current cost of ADA after taxes, and let's do one quick basic calculation. Let's say a project does 1 million in volume at current ADA price. 1 million in volume at 10% would be 100,000 ADA. That's less than $50,000 at current prices, but let's say it's 50,000 for now. Taxes are going to be somewhere around 25,000, 25,000. You're left with around $30,000, and that's not a completely insignificant amount. You could pay for something for the project substantial with
You
that.
can't even hire a blockchain dev for like 2 months with that. Barely.
Very limited things you can do with that. And again, that's at 10%. Now, what a lot of people say is, oh, just hold the ADA, just hold it. Well, first of all, you have to sell some of it.
Oh, you have to. Yeah.
You have to sell some of it to pay your taxes immediately. I mean, you can gamble and hope that it goes up in price.
You don't want to gamble with your funds for the project. Well, I'm
Learn
sure
that
some people
lesson.
do, but yeah.
A lot of projects have learned that lesson. We made some mistakes early on with that as well. And it's very difficult to manage that. So the question of royalties is like, yeah, if anything, if you are a project, I think I would hope that the response, and I think from the Derp Birds community, they would support this, especially considering the upgrade to 2.0, right? We're doing that artwork. We're not charging any ADA. You will pay Derp, which people are accumulating right now for the assets they're holding anyways, but you'll pay Derp to complete that upgrade. We're not charging ADA for that. We're not asking for any more money. We have one of the best artists in the entire world of NFTs who's doing the artwork for 2.0 collection. But wait, there's more. He's doing all of the Pred artwork as well. And that we'll just update the metadata. People are going to wake up one day and they're going to have the sickest art on the chain. Literally one of the best artists in the entire NFT space. They're just going to wake up and have all of that for free. All this incredible new artwork of the Pred. They're just going to wake up and get that. And so for us,
that's not free, guys, by the way. You do have to pay your artists.
Yeah, like we don't get to just and this guy again. I mean, by the way, he's working on the roadmap right now.
Wait, give him a shout out. Who is it?
His name's Cosmo. He's if you haven't seen this project, Nash, you should look up the project called Pendulum.
Okay.
It's a Cardano NFT project. And go check out some of his artwork. Like good there anyways, I'm getting way too excited about this, but the point here being like we aren't charging for these things, and royalties are a great way for us to sort of, to me, the signal it's that we're trying to send is if we were looking to just make money in the short term, we would charge for this. We're betting on ourselves and being here for the long term. And so putting it in royalties instead, increasing royalties is our way of doing that. And to get back to your question, I mentioned the marketplace. By bringing marketplace in-house, of course, people will be able to use Derp in some way if we bring the marketplace in-house, but we're also able to collect fees and such for using a market house in our ecosystem. All of that just goes towards making the project sustainable. So that was a long answer, but I think it's something that is not talked about enough. Maybe it is more on Ethereum and Solana, but on Cardano, it is not glamorous to talk about funding for projects. Something that needs to change.
Not anywhere.
For a long time.
Yeah, it's not anywhere.
Just to kind of throw in, you were talking about Clay. Clay is at just on JPEG 26.8 million volume, and they're at 2% royalties.
Yeah, oh man, 2%.
That's
not much.
It's not.
So, and the crazy thing is, you'll make the argument that it needs to be 10% minimum for some things or whatever. And then you'll be like, no, these guys have 2%. They're cutting themselves short, I think.
Well,
personally.
you think like Clay is doing some really ambitious, incredible stuff, and you do think like how and what kind of a situation. By the way, something worth mentioning, and this is a part of the, I don't know if you know this, Nash, but like we smart contracts launched almost a year and 3 days ago on Cardano, September 18th. And we didn't have a real smart contract marketplace until, what was it, November, December, or something like that, I suppose, before we really had that. So Clay Nation did at least 10 million ADA in volume without getting any royalties on it, because the marketplace that we had pre-smart contract, they weren't paying, they weren't, there was
So
no
you
royalties.
specifically, Derp Birds?
No, sorry, Clay,
No.
Clay
Oh,
Nation.
Clay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so they
in the
missed out
project,
on all of those royalties. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, Milo.
that sucks.
Yeah.
That's
You think how
unfortunate.
much more could how much more could they do if they had, yeah, let's just say 10%, and they received royalties that entire time. Like, again, industry standard and stuff aside, but it's an interesting topic and needs to be talked a lot more about on Cardano
Yeah, of
or
course.
NFTs.
All right. So going off of royalties here, I want to toss it over to Malau. Now, with the recent flood of attention into Cardano NFTs, do you think that Derp Birds is going to be the number one collection? And if so, they're probably going to be raking in like a lot of royalties. Is there maybe like a marketplace or something you think should happen to gamify the system even more?
um, yeah, it's tough because when you've been in the ecosystem for so long, you kind of start thinking like, especially, I mean, dirt birds at one time, we were buying derps for 20 ADA. Like it
Yeah.
got down that low. So, and you'll talk to people in the space, be like, man, no, I believe in dirt birds. They're building. And they're like, no, but they're 20 ADA. There's, and like for you, Nash, like imagine, when JK reached out to you, if you would have looked at dirt birds and like they were under 100 ADA, and you're like, yeah, I'm not going to get into that. Initially what you look at is the price, the floor price. You look at the art, but you look at the
It's like
floor
a
price.
status. It's a status
Yeah,
symbol to have a high
exactly.
floor price.
Exactly. So it's very hard for people to wrap their brains around seeing a project that has a low floor and thinking, oh, well, they're going to be number one in the space eventually. With Dirt Birds, that's kind of the same mentality. We've spent months telling people, hey, look, these guys are legit. They're building. They have something that you want to be a part of, but it's always been that status, like you said, of that floor price, kind of holding back that thought, that initial thought of, oh, well, can they really be the number one in the space? I personally want them to be. I think the mentality of the space right now doesn't allow that yet. But I see Clay, like we talked about Clay earlier. I see Clay as that number one, because I see them building and innovating a whole lot more than other top projects. I'm not going to name names, um, but to answer your question, I would like to believe that if Dirt Birds isn't number one, that we're top three.
Yeah.
And I really believe that. And yeah, of course I'm biased, but when you've been in the project this long, you understand what's being built. You understand behind the scenes of what's going on. It's not just surface level. Oh, look at floor price, look at volume. All these guys aren't really doing much. You realize, you dig deeper under the surface, you realize that there's potential for a lot. And, not to toot his own horn or whatever you're going to call it, but Dave and the team do a great job. They really do. They do an amazing job, and they're really smart. They Dirt Birds. The title of Derps kind of puts you under the title of, you don't know what you're doing. But these guys, their tech, the things that they do with the project is really above and beyond what other projects do, and they seek legal advice. They're solid in that way. So in my mind, there's no way they're going anywhere. They're here to stay. They're here to build. And that's been proven more than anything, especially during this bear market. So,
Is there an idea that you have to maybe gamify the Derp Birds ecosystem further? Is there any ideas you have or have maybe thought of?
to gamify the experience, Dave talked about their own marketplace. I think if we have our own marketplace, I think there's a lot of potential for that, because you open up the doors for um, your own traits being exchanged on that marketplace. That's not necessarily
That's pretty
um,
cool.
on a main marketplace, but you're able to trade. Say you have I don't know, say you have some big rocket launcher that you can put on your derp or your pred or whatever, and you get this out of a loot crate that you spin derp on. And say you have two of them and you don't want this second one, then you can be like, hey, look, I got this, I want to trade it. And you can do that if you can do that within that marketplace, and spin derp on it or use their ecosystem on it. I think it really opens up something that is not really thought of yet. And that's what I think. I think if you have a marketplace, it opens up a huge potential to add gamification more than what you're doing right
Yeah,
now,
I
using
agree.
a not, I wouldn't say centralized, but I mean, you were with us, Nash, just the other day when JPEG store shut down for 5+ hours.
Hey,
You
it's
know,
because the ETH boys came with that liquidity. You guys couldn't handle it.
That's what it was.
imagine just, you wanted to go in and buy, and you couldn't because that marketplace holds basically a monopoly on a majority of the Cardano NFTs. And so having something that, we'll be able to do on the side or on our own is huge. And like I said, with the best tech guy in the space, I think there's potential for a lot to be built on that. So yeah.
Yeah, of course. Now, Dave, I want to toss this over to you here. I know that you mentioned DeGods earlier in the interview. Can you
Mhm.
tell me about your experience with DeGods? Are you maybe a fan of them? And do you think that Derp Birds could ever reach their level of success?
Well, yes. To answer the last question, I think absolutely. The like I feel like everything that I say about the future of the project, there's always that conditional clause of what's the market looking like, right? There are two major stars that have to align before we see anything massive move in the NFT space. Again, it's the broader macro, right?
Yeah.
It's not great right now, right? Inflation's crazy. We had the Fed sort of rate hike today, so markets are bleeding again today. That broader macro needs to be healthy in order for the second star to even have any chance of getting back to normal, which is the broader crypto markets, right?
Yeah.
We need to see
True.
some health return to broader crypto, and it has outside of that top level factor. I'm playing with my Bitcoin dice there. That the in order for the crypto market to be healthy, the larger, broader macro needs to sort of get realigned and back to good health. But even if that were to happen, there's other things facing crypto, right? Like regulation and so on. We don't know. Like I am a sort of a proponent in reasonable regulation to like help cut down on scams and get things where they need to be. But we don't know what that's going to mean for the NFT space. So, but those two factors first need to get realigned before we see, true potential return to the NFT space. So
Yeah.
when that happens, we don't know, like the things that could be possible are crazy. And so I should say that if that happens, we of course have every intention to make Derp Birds, one of the best NFT projects that exists on any chain. To talk about DeGods in particular, my exposure to DeGods came from a friend who runs the NFT branch at StockTwits. If you don't know what StockTwits is, it's sort of a social app to discuss like stock trading and crypto. They're trying to make a play for NFTs, which I think there's a lot of potential. They have like
Oh yeah.
500,000 daily active users on that platform, or is it 3 million, or is it like it's a sizable, especially compared to the NFT space. A lot of people, and those people are ideal. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. The point here is this particular person, like back in February, was like, hey, you should look at this project DeGods. Like they're starting to make some noise on Solana. I started following them a little bit, not paying too much attention, and this particular person kept pointing me at DeGods, and so I've watched their sort of ascent from basically starting from, earlier this year. And yeah, it's been super inspiring. But my favorite thing about the project is there's two factors. The first one is the community, like that's rallied around DeGods, is incredible. Like that's exactly what, in my opinion, I mean, that's my favorite aspect of the project is how just what an insane, wild, active community they have.
Yeah.
And we've said again from the start, like Derp Birds, like the project is the community. Like we've been saying that from the beginning. Like there is no NFT project without a community, and so it's kind of insane not to focus heavily on community. So I really admire that about DeGods. But the second thing that is, I think everyone knows this, is just how impressive it is that they've been able to do what they've done in this market. And so I started off answering this question by saying, like, there are these market conditions that need to align before we see anything crazy happen. And that's not obviously universally true, because DeGods was able to show you don't have to wait for those stars to align. You can just basically set up the success for yourself. But that may not be something that's always something that can be replicated. And to tie this back to the question we just had about the topic, or the conversation we just had about royalties, these last few days have been wild for Derp Birds, and it's been a drop in the bucket, right? Like not about royalties specifically, but about like how much has the needle been moved on Derp Bird, like overall top projects on
overall
Cardano?
volume.
Barely anything compared to if we were in the middle of a bull run, right?
Oh yeah, that's true.
And so Cardano, you look at Cardano, and again, it's always had a fraction of the volume of Solana and Ethereum, for example. But a project that, in the middle of a bull run, if a project on Cardano is doing really well, you can see 1 million plus 2 million ADA in a single day on a project. Put that in perspective. I tweeted the tweet that sort of set off this excitement around Derp Birds 11 days ago, I think. That since then, what have the OGs done? 200, 300,000 ADA or something like that, tops. And it's exciting and it's awesome. And I'm having a blast. I'm not complaining about that. Like I'm super grateful for this, the state of the project, but we're in a bear market. And that's why it's impressive, in my opinion. Like it's impressive to and it's exciting to see that happening with Derp Birds right now. But if this was a bull run and the same thing were happening, it could have been 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million ADA instead of 200 or 300,000. So in order to do, what DeGods has done, Frank is a genius. The team is a genius, like obviously. But I think for the most part, those stars need to align. So yeah, really admire the project, and I absolutely think Derp Birds could do the exact same thing. But it's a struggle. It's a real challenge to see how that could happen, right? With current market conditions.
Of course. We're getting to the back end of the interview here now, and I want to toss this over to Malau. Are there any projects, either ETH, Solana, Cardano, that you think that Derp Birds should maybe partnership with or do a community collab, anything like that? Twitter Spaces, maybe.
I mean, for now, I mean, just like recently, I've seen a very very natural and organic connection with Sappy Seals, and not to like say, oh well, yeah, all these ETH guys from Sappy. No, like just being in the Discord for a little bit and seeing, I guess the way each other handle it, like we love memes, we love having fun and hanging out, and so like, and I also think like that the art style, even though Derp Birds art style will be changing, I feel like that funny, derpy looking bird plus Sappy Seals, I think it really, they really connect. It's cohesive. It's not like you're putting Sappy Seals and DeGods together. That's completely different. Like that, as far as the way they look. But the communities, I think we've enjoyed you guys being here, because it's very similar to our community, and so it's very easy to get along with you guys and talk to you. So I see that would be a cool collab, especially to do cross chain, because correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we have any cross chain collaborations. It's just kind of been within our ecosystem, right, Dave?
Yeah, there's like some stuff like nothing that nothing that really took off, but there've been some smaller initiatives. Like I think it's usually like not cross chain collab as much as it is projects doing things across multiple chains, like Angel Baby Hit Squad, Ugly
Yeah.
Bros is doing some stuff with that. But yeah, collabs in general are hard to make work, but yeah, cross chain would be cool.
Got it. And then, so Dave, aside from Derp Birds, what are your favorite projects on Cardano? And then, are there any projects that we could maybe see a partnership or some type of collab with that in the future?
Yeah, favorite projects is that's a scary one. I actually tweeted yesterday, I think it was yesterday, about uh, like how much should I be talking about Dirt Birds? Like, should I shill for Dirt Birds and stuff? In that thread, I list a list of projects that are some of ones. Rather than saying my favorites, I'll say that these are ones that I hold that I'm a big
Okay.
fan of, because there's loads of them, and there's no way I'm going to remember all of them. But one of my favorite projects on Cardano is Clumsy Ghosts. Like, I love that
Oh,
project.
I have one of those.
They're
Yeah.
awesome. It's such a fun project. Again, I really enjoy it because not only is it like super high quality and really well done, but obviously I'm a UX designer. Like, I'm a big fan of everything they've done. The website, their white paper, I love that. But the other thing I really like is we're doing completely different things from them, but they have sort of a similar ethos in that they're making this experience of collecting NFTs fun.
Yeah.
And that, to me, again, being based on everything I said about video games and such, like, that I think is a really smart approach, is to just make the NFT project fun to collect rather than trying to make a game. Anyways, Clumsy Ghost is definitely up there with one of my favorites. I love Mutants. I think people are gonna be like, oh, of course Dave's gonna say he loves Mutants. But this is a project that we have an insane amount of things in common with as well. It's kind of weird that we didn't talk much. They launched right after us. We never really
Yeah.
spoke much, but I've been talking to Andy a lot from that team lately, and I think he's like my new best friend. Like, we had a call the other day. I'm pretty sure we talked for I talked for 2.5 hours and he talked for like half an hour, but we were on the call for 3 hours. Like, it was awesome. So I love that project in large part because of the fact that they have, just like us, they've been here for 12 months, building, delivering extremely high quality, awesome tech, great UX, like everything they do. Of course, you really can't talk about Cardano NFT projects without talking about Clay Nation,
Yeah.
for everything that they've done for the space. Again, uh, to me, I know, people have different opinions on this, but like, it's hard to see. I have personally not seen many NFT projects anywhere that have done as much for the NFT space as what Clay Nation is trying to do. And so, obviously, I'm a huge fan of Clay Nation. That's three, but again, I hold probably 25 or 30 and love all of them. And the ones that I hold, I should say, like, the thing that they all have in common is they're projects that I probably can go without being said, but these are all projects that I believe will just keep building no matter what. They don't really care whether the market's hot or not. They're just going to keep going. And those are the
That's
projects that
important. They're not just going to give up when it's a bear market or something, or just disappear, soft rug.
Exactly. And the other part of your question is partnerships and stuff. I'm kind of like so done with like the whole collaboration type thing where it's like, oh, we'll include your traits and you include ours. Like, it's such a drain on time, and I have to now be very selective with where I invest any of my time because it is limited. And those types of things tend to not really help anyone. It's fun. It's fun. Like, I will say that, but they end up not really helping either project very much. Beyond that, though, I think what's more interesting is, rather than collaborations, is partnerships, like
Yeah.
meaningful partnerships. Those are so difficult to do well in the NFT space. But there is one in particular, and I can't say anything much yet, but there's one particular project that we are talking quite a bit with on how we can. I should say there's two, but there's one main one that we are really wanting to get super close with, that we have a lot of common goals, and it would benefit both projects for us to figure. It's not going to be easy, but to figure out how we can do things together. Again, it's so difficult because one
So
project
so it's
benefit.
more like we want to work with you, but now what's the best way to do it? That type of thing?
Exactly. Well, it's more than that. It's not just a, hey, we like you guys and you know, we like you guys and you guys like us. It's much more of a, hey, there would be a lot of benefit. I'll give it away if I say too much, but there would be a lot of benefit for both. Whereas there's a different dynamic here where sometimes the project comes and you're like, hey, we love what you guys are doing. Let's partner up in some way. And I'm like, cool, what's your idea? And they're like,
A
you
trade.
know, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
include a trade, and you can do the minting for us for free or something. And it's like there's no partnership in that, right? Like that's just us helping them out with something.
Mm.
This isn't that. This relationship is holy shit. Like if we work together based on what the things that you're trying to do and that we're trying to do, it would put both of our projects in such a strong position within the Cardano ecosystem that yeah, it's immediately obvious how advantageous it would be for us to work together. So that's one that, again, it's not easy. Even as appealing as this is, as obvious as it is, it's not easy to, we have our own roadmaps. We have to build those things. Now we have to pause and think about how do we come together, and are you guys benefiting and are we benefiting, and can we make sure that, you know, this is a fairly, you know, equitable relationship between the two of us. That's very difficult to do, but I think it's worth it. So yeah,
Yeah, that
that's
definitely makes sense. Okay, and then we're down to the final two questions here. Number one is going to be, let's say someone, right? Maybe like some type of farmer or something was working on a project for a long time, and they're deciding, you know, what chain should I launch on, right? Or you know, this person. Is there a reason that someone should launch on Cardano rather than, let's say, Ethereum? Because, you know, each one has a pro and con. Ethereum has a lot more volume, a lot more eyes, and a lot more developers. Cardano may be more, you know, efficient, faster, maybe less fees or something like that. Is there a chain that you would recommend for someone to launch on, and why?
yeah, that's a tough one. Again, there's a lot of really great conversations being had right now in the space over the last few days about this, not this exact question, but a lot of carryover, a lot of crossover between those conversations and this question. Um, I think, you know, I talked about a bit about why we came to Cardano, and I think those factors are still true. Um, I think it depends upon the nature of the project. What are you trying to do? If you have a very long time horizon in terms of, you know, if you're starting today until the time that you're going to launch, starting now on Cardano, I think is a really great idea. I, again, I'm not a maxi of any chain, but there are things that I think make Cardano dominant long term. It has its flaws, absolutely, right now, and has, over the last space. Sorry, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you good now.
I'm playing with my AirPod thing and it switched over to my AirPods. I think that there, if you're here for the long term, then then Cardano is a really great option. But again, it depends upon completely the nature of the project and what your time horizon is. There are very obvious benefits to going to Sol if you're doing something. I think that's in the shorter term, or Solana or Ethereum. Yeah, I think you can make arguments for all. It just depends upon completely upon what you're trying to do with the project.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. And then final question here is, where can we find you guys? You know, plug your Twitters, plug your projects, anything like that. And then just maybe a final statement about, you know, what you do and why people should follow you.
Yeah, you can follow, first of all, if you're going to follow only one thing, then go follow the Derp Birds Twitter. Yeah, you can just search Derp Birds NFT on Twitter and give us a follow to keep up with the project that way. You can also follow us here on YouTube. We do upload things that need to get back to doing that on a more regular cadence. But you can follow us here on YouTube. Just search Derp Birds NFT. And then my own personal Twitter is _Dave. And yeah, I mostly tweet about Derp Birds, obviously, but also tend to talk quite a bit about NFTs in general. So yeah, come follow.
Awesome. Malau?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Malau_gaming. But I mean, I'm pretty sure if you just type in Malau, MELAU, you can find it. But I mean, a majority of what I post, like Dave said, is about derps, but I guess you can kind of consider me like a derp maxi. Like if you want to know any information or what's going on with Derp Birds, that's kind of what I've been doing. I like, I'll be having you this
You're the
Saturday
guy.
on, yeah,
You're
I'm
the
the
guy.
guy. So like if you want to know an outside viewpoint of not being a dev for the project, but just a holder, then yeah, follow me on Twitter. I do Derp and Coffee on Saturdays, something new that I started, and it's been fun. I've been enjoying it. I think the community has been enjoying it. Just kind of like a different outlet to learn about derps, talk about derps, but then also just the Cardano ecosystem, just kind of talking about other NFTs as well. And so yeah, like this Saturday, we'll be having you on and interviewing you and just talking about your story and why you're here, why you're on Cardano, and so it's gonna be fun. So yeah, that's mainly it. I have a YouTube, but I don't post on that. So
It's also all Derp Birds content at this point.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Right, and all my Twitter posts have been Derp Birds for the last like week anyway. So,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
but all right, guys, we are gonna close things up. Once again, I am Farmer Nash. You can follow me on Twitter, just Farmer Nash _. Make sure to hit that subscribe. Go follow the boys and go buy some Derp Birds and Preds and anything else you want from the collection. And we are going to head out, everyone. Thanks for watching.